With Haliburton's historic playoff performance, Indiana took a big step closer to the finals. Now they're looking to close out the series at Madison Square Garden, but since New York couldn't tie up the series, every loss now could mean the end of their season, so they were desperate to keep the season alive at home. Even though it was their most stressful game of the season, Jalen Brunson, who had struggled in Game 4, came out strong. New York quickly took control of the court. With Mitchell Robinson starting again, the Knicks slowed the game down. With Brunson running things, they had no reason to lose in the half-court game, but Towns still seemed a bit affected by his injury. Indiana tried to use their speed and ball movement and started to push back into the game. The Pacers also began putting defensive pressure on Brunson. Towns fighting through injury and getting into rhythm was a game changer. Brunson didn't seem fazed by the matchup hunting aimed at him.
Porter. I like how Towns got up on that pick and roll. Whoa! He has been a first.
Brunson's back-to-back threes showed how badly New York wanted to stay alive. Indiana suddenly found themselves down by double digits. They tried rotating fresh legs to chase down the lead quickly, but Brunson's jumper was just on another level today.
Already. And Hart, who's gone from a starter inside, he goes Robinson. Nice feed on top from Josh Hart.
Surprisingly, New York even used Indiana's own weapon, semi-transition offense. Indiana's second unit started showing signs of life later in the quarter, but the first quarter still ended with a lead for the more desperate Knicks. New York tried to stagger Brunson and Towns' minutes as much as they could and leaned into Towns' isolation plays in the second quarter. Even with the knee injury, his determination was unreal. As expected, he got targeted on defense, but he made up for it with his fight on offense.
Hart with the rebound. That was an obvious foul on Towns. Just extended his arm and pushed him. Josh Hart on the break off the miss. As good a coach.
The Knicks pushed back using transition, usually Indiana's strength. They refused to let go of the lead they'd grabbed. Plus, Coach Thibodeau's recent use of the bench was actually working. So even when the starters came back, Indiana couldn't shift the momentum.
Bridges needs to watch this and bring that kind of ball pressure when he comes back in.
Towns stepped up big time while Brunson was resting. New York was holding their lead incredibly well so far. Before long, Indiana was trailing by double digits again. Unexpectedly, Landry Shamet forced a turnover after being added to the rotation, and the Knicks surprisingly held their own in the bench battle. On the flip side, Haliburton had barely made an impact so far. When Miles Turner got into foul trouble, New York totally owned the paint. Indiana kept playing up tempo and didn't give up the chase. But the home team managed to hold on to a double-digit lead. If you just looked at the first half, New York clearly wanted it more. In the second half, Nesmith, who had been quiet, hit a big three and started playing tight press defense on Brunson, putting serious pressure.
On a made shot, Indiana needs to get the tempo up. Brunson cruises his way for two and a foul. Well, the problem with
Brunson ignored the pressure and got the and one. New York was firing on all cylinders with both stars clicking. Brunson even hit a three and already had 20 points. Meanwhile, Haliburton's quiet night continued with a weak layup attempt, which got completely stuffed by Mitchell Robinson's length. Robinson stayed locked in and forced a turnover too. Fired up from those defensive stops, he even got a bucket with his signature putback. So New York kept the momentum even into the second half. At the center of it all was Robinson's defensive impact. Then Towns drove in and finished just like he'd been doing all game, and finally New York started to really pull away. At that point, down 20, Indiana looked in serious trouble. But in this series, a lead like that never felt totally safe. Then Indiana woke up with Obi Toppin stepping up, and the visitors slowly started clawing their way back. Meanwhile, Josh Hart kept launching threes, exactly what Indiana wanted. Then foul trouble hit Towns, who had been dominating. New York's offense suddenly stalled. Coach Carlisle's Hack-a-Robinson move started working. Just like that, New York's big lead started slipping away fast. Once again, Indiana's second half energy was on display, but New York still had Jalen Brunson to lean on.
Take it the other way. Under 3 to play in the third. Brunson with a three. Got it! And the foul. And the foul. 29.
Brunson's three-point and one came at the perfect time. For Indiana, who had fought hard to come back, it was a gut punch. Then the Pacers started turning the ball over, and their momentum vanished. To make things worse, even Pascal Siakam couldn't deliver in the clutch. Even with bench players on the floor, New York held onto their lead. Josh Hart's hustle and energy were as impressive as ever. Benedict Mathurin kept scoring for Indiana, trying to keep them close, but it wasn't a great sign that Mathurin was their top scorer. In the end, Indiana couldn't close the gap meaningfully. The biggest reason? Haliburton just looked totally out of it. Sure, Indiana plays a physical, high-energy style, so the Knicks couldn't relax just yet. Despite trailing, Indiana kept subbing in fresh legs and stayed within striking distance. Even Brunson rushed back into the game, lost a jump ball. But even after all that effort and momentum building, Haliburton still couldn't shake off his slump.
When Brunson was on the bench, Siakam's on the bench now for Indiana. Hart goes inside. And was fouled.
Josh Hart, often criticized for his lack of scoring, stepped up too, and the Knicks never let the Pacers get the lead under 10 again. Of course, Indiana wasn't going to just give up, not after Game 1's miracle. New York's cold shooting from deep kept the game from being a blowout. Mathurin's scoring off the bench was a bright spot for Indiana, and Haliburton finally scored a layup that reminded us he was still in the game. But Coach Carlisle's decision to bench Miles Turner right then.
Here in Game 5, that's been a difference, you're right. Tones! Skies! And that's the problem. You don't come up with that possession.
Led directly to a huge and one play by Towns. That moment exposed Indiana's lack of size. Eventually, Carlisle waved the white flag by sending in the bench. With Haliburton playing like this, winning was nearly impossible. Last game's hero turned invisible, proving critics right about the hype. For the first time this postseason, Indiana didn't even crack 100. Coach Thibodeau even rested his starters comfortably. With both Towns and Brunson going off, New York took Game 5. They avoided elimination at home, at least for now. Sure, they're still in a tough spot in the series, but their ability to hold a lead today was nothing like Game 1, and if they can keep Haliburton this quiet again, Indiana might not be heading to the finals after all. As a basketball fan, I'm just glad this series is getting even better.
Hey man, why do you be getting them dumb fouls?
I was going to ask the same question.
Why do you do that?
God only knows.
I mean, when you got your fourth foul, they took you out. They made a run.
Yeah.
You got to stop doing that.
I got to do a much better job.
Yes.
I got to